All right, so we are live and we have some participants joining us in the waiting room. So we got about a minute and we're going to get promptly started at 3 o'clock. So
Wow, Kathy's on here and the
yeah,
lady from my chapter. That's cool.
Sarah, no pressure, WIC is on. So
I knew he would be.
yes, seeing lots of familiar names on here, which is awesome. Seeing a few more CFMA people, Courtney and Eileen. All right. Well, I have 3 o'clock. And so for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and have us get started. Um, thank you to everybody who is here today with us and welcome to our special Women in Construction Week webinar. I am Samantha Lake. I am the COO of ProNovos. I have a background in organizational culture and development. I got my master's from Purdue. So looking at efficiency and just understanding the insights of women and how we can improve the operational efficiency has always been something near and dear to my heart. So I'm very excited to be joined by these wonderful women here today. So without further ado, I'm going to let them introduce themselves and we're going to jump into this topic. So Angela, you want to kick it off?
Great. I'm Angela Cody. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Bartlett Cock General Contractors. I handle the east half of the state of Texas and very proud to be here today.
And Angela, how long have you been in the construction space for?
Oh, I've been doing this. You're going to make me reveal my age, Samantha. About 27 years. Oh, and Bartlett Cock, what we do is we build all kinds of commercial buildings and specialize in educational facilities from pre-K to university level, as well as commercial and industrial work.
It's amazing that you started working at 10 years old. So kudos
I
for that.
know. Thank you.
All right, Sarah.
I am Sarah Shores. I'm Vice President of Administration for Outside the Lines. We are a design build contractor headquartered in Anaheim, California. I've been in the construction industry for about 15 years.
Wonderful. And last but certainly not least, Tori.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tori Terrell. I'm the Vice President of Finance, also Treasurer for Design Electric. Our headquarters is in Charlottesville, Virginia. We specialize in commercial and industrial electrical installation. We also have a telecommunications division, and I've been in the industry now for 22 years.
As you can see, there is a wealth of knowledge and experience on this panel here today. So I'm very excited for you all to hear their insights. And, as I mentioned before, I have a passion for organizational culture, but also neuroscience, just been a hobby of mine. So I've always been fascinated with how the human brain works. So when we were thinking about a topic for this, I thought back to the distinctiveness that happens between men and women really lies within our brains, and so research has shown that a lot of this has to do with just the connectivity. So for instance, women have stronger side to side connections within their brain, which helps foster intuitive thinking and our analytical abilities, whereas men have stronger front to back connections. This enhances their perception and motor skills. There's also odd variances in our white and gray matter usage, which could explain why men tend to excel at task focused projects, while women, we tend to demonstrate strengths in our language and multitasking abilities. So we're going to take a look at how our panel of women in construction is using their brains to streamline operation, leveraging technology and building positive cultures. So as we know, in 2024, the importance of operational efficiency is, really, really important to construction companies. And it's imperative for cost savings and ensuring that your projects are being completed in a timely manner. So, Sarah, I'm going to start with you. I'm curious to hear about what steps you have taken to help streamline OTL.
Our company developed an online portal to help streamline operations between the field and the office. Now field employees have immediate access to critical project information such as project plans, submittals, schedules. We've even integrated our buyout matrix so our superintendents can track material deliveries in real time.
Interesting. And so, when you guys were coming up with this, what were the inefficiencies that you saw that kind of, set it off in your head of like, hey, this is something that we need to do to streamline the organization?
We used a lot of paper, a lot of even our plans, our time cards, pretty much everything that would go in and out of the field was paper driven. So if they had to bring something into my office, they'd have to bring their paperwork and it'd come back dirty and filthy. So this has really helped. Because we're a design build firm, we have changes to our plans constantly. So when changes for plans, they'd have to come into the office, pick up a new paper set of plans. This we can roll right into the portal and they have immediate access to the change in plans.
Well, thinking about construction and there's multi generations in the industry, and so I'm thinking about the rollout plan for this because there is definitely a demographic of individuals who doesn't really love technology. They are very comfortable with doing it with the ways in which they have known, i.e. pen and paper. So how did you roll this out to your employees to ensure that they were actually going to use it?
We have a lot of seasoned employees who are not tech savvy at all. So we used a very gradual approach when implementing this portal. We started out with basic features and gradually introduced some more advanced functions as employees became more comfortable with the technology.
And did you guys do this in person? Did you utilize Zoom? Like, how did you guys structure these meetings?
So one thing that we thought was very important is to have hands-on training. So the developer of the program came in and we flew in our superintendents from Texas and everywhere to make sure that they had hands-on in-person training. So they were learning on the device that they're using in the field.
And in our conversations for this and the prep, you had said something really interesting about the change management that needed to go into this and the role that you played. So, can you share with the listeners today how you kind of manage that change management?
Yeah, so it was really important, like I said, to use that gradual approach and to make sure that we had our employees feeling very comfortable with the new rollout. It was difficult at first, especially for employees that relied very heavily on using Excel. And right now our portal is still evolving. So we're working on estimating functions. But the reason we're trying to get everybody onto this is because Excel leaves OTL exposed for errors. So this will automate everything.
That's great insight. And did you find though, when working with the team, that there were certain people that maybe weren't getting it, and then did you have to step in? And was that something unique maybe to you versus other members of the team with this rollout?
Absolutely. I think as women, we're a little bit more patient, and I think that we can resonate. Something that I made very aware is that this portal was new to me also. So as they were learning, I was also learning it. And I think resonating with the employees that didn't have the tech, I guess, experience was really helpful in letting them understand, like, hey, we're all in this together.
Perfect. And Angela, I know that when we were having conversations, you just had a thought. So what are your thoughts about Excel, Angela?
Well, I just feel like it can be dangerous, right? If not everyone uses it the same way, and there's just that risk of mistakes when one person does it and then another person gets in there and they make their changes and then the next person makes their changes and then it needs to be transferred to something else. So we use something similar with a portal, and even taking this information and putting into dashboards. We're using Power BI and those type of things so that we can leverage the information clearly and not have to always trust that document is accurate.
So this is for those of you listening today. If you feel like your company is heavy in Excel, this is a really good opportunity to maybe look at that process and figure out ways to streamline, your operations by getting your team off of Excel. And this is going to be a very shameless promotion for ProNovos. That is one thing that our company excels in, is getting you off of Excel and putting you into dashboards and pre-made workflows with everything flowing from your ERP. So if that is something that interests you, I know OTL is using ProNovos. You can absolutely reach out to Sarah and get her insights in regards to how that has been for them.
Happy
Now
to.
back to our regularly scheduled program from that commercial break. Um, Tori, I think that you have some great insights as well. And you looked at it outside of the tech part. You were looking at it from a succession planning perspective. So can you share with everybody where you were at in this process and why you focused in on succession planning?
Sure. Succession planning at every level, as we all know, is extremely important, especially through the life cycle of our companies. And this can be a big, very overwhelming process. And our leadership team knew it was important, but nobody was really spearheading and planning and getting it moving. So the previous approach, had worked in the past was when the seat becomes available or when we have a job to fill, we'll fill it. But I realized that these roles are so vital to our company's success that we really had to be proactive, and this takes years to get this right. And so I recognize, right, that my male counterparts on the leadership team, they're great at thinking about something like the life cycle of a job, maybe a little easier than thinking about the life cycle of these roles. So often I'll find that I have to adapt my communication to try to explain it in a way that they can relate to.
That is really insightful. And so kind of what you're talking about is the difference between concrete and abstract thinking, right?
Absolutely. Another way to think about that, right, is like our direct revenue versus our indirect revenue in accounting. So very much concrete versus abstract.
It's a great point in the presentation to hear from our audience. We're curious to know, do you do better with concrete ideas or abstract? So an example is, if you're a concrete thinker, you might be great at analyzing the physical properties of an object. But you might not see the full bigger picture, like thinking 5 years down the road. Whereas if you're an abstract thinker, you can think about complex concepts and ideas without getting bogged down by the specifics. So we're going to go ahead and launch this poll. First, just kind of give us an idea, since this is about males and females, and what your gender is, and where do you tend to thrive at, concrete or abstract thoughts. And while we are waiting on everyone to answer, Tori, can you share with us the steps that you took in order to bring about this process in succession planning?
Yeah, so like most things, when I don't know the answer to something myself, I go and look for the person that has it. So I sought out a mentor. This one just happened to be female. She's working on her doctorate in organizational psychology, and she really helped us get this, discussion started and scheduling the meetings that were required. Kind of getting that snowball rolling, so to say. So as we started to build out the plan, my role in all of this was really just being like a project manager of sorts, ensuring that we were moving forward and really championing that we had regularly scheduled meetings, and that we could keep the conversation going and moving on.
So I love that. So what I'm hearing you say is, like, you kind of kicked it off, you planted the seed, you rallied support around it, and then you worked collaboratively with the team. But your role in this has been to make sure that you are moving things forward and it's staying top of mind and it's progressing, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
And I relate to that on a very deep level. I have found myself in my career playing that role of making sure that things are continuously moving forward. Just in my relationship with like Bruce, I'm the person who I'm putting it in Monday.com. And I was like, I will remind you about this, and we are not going to forget about this. So I'm curious to know from Sarah and Angela, do either of you find yourselves playing that role of making sure that things are moving forward and staying top of mind, and you're kind of keeping all of the ducks in a row, if you will?
Absolutely. Definitely on my end. I feel like I'm sometimes hurting cats, but at the same time, I keep a very, tight ship. So I think it's really important that we all work together to do that.
And I'm not a regimented person. It is for me, like I don't no 2 days of my life are ever the same. So this question is one that I've been working on, right? As for personal growth, is that how do you keep consistency when you're the problem solver and there's so much coming at you all the time. So this has been where I'm surprised with myself, I guess, that I've been shining a little bit in the sense that consistency works. And if you, in anything, whether it's succession planning, any kind of planning, it's being the leader and staying on people and really following through. And part of that is, I mean, that's the nature of our business where we do construction. So if we treat it like a schedule and we have milestone dates for each one of our plans, it gets done and it happens. And that's been, but part of it is communicating and investing in that plan constantly. And the nature of our business is a very, very busy one. So making sure that people that might have been able to get really involved at this point can't at phase number 2. And how do you break that down to get as much involvement from the stakeholders as possible has been an interesting challenge as well. But that's the job.
Well, thank you all for those insights. Real quick, I know John is listening. John, we just got a question in that says chat is disabled. I don't know if you can enable it so attendees can talk to each other, but that question just came through. So moving on, looking at our results, unfortunately, Zoom did not function the way that I hoped it would. It did not correlate these. So I don't really know male or female to reinforce, but it does look like we have more females who participated, and people are a little bit more heavily in the abstract thought. So unfortunately, I can't make the correlation between male and female, but it does seem like we have more people who are stronger with abstract thought on this, which is good to hear. And I think the whole point is it's not better to be abstract or concrete. It's a good idea to have a mix of all of those different brains on your team so people can see things differently. So Tori, I know we have one more example for you. And this example revolves around what you did in the early 2000s to move the company towards being paperless. So can you walk us through that?
Yeah, that was actually my first move, leaving the reception desk, and which started my uprising towards the accounting department. So I was able to actually, it was cutting edge technology at the time, back in 2004, but that has quickly evolved. And even as I was getting up to speed with something called document management, I saw very quickly that we needed to catch up. So our process then, in accounts payable, we had started to receive our invoices electronically at that point, but we were still printing them out, matching them to packing slips, stapling them, highlighting them, and processing them in the system. And then someone was having to manually remove the staples, scan them into the system, into basically our digital dinosaur of a filing cabinet. And so along the way, I helped to figure out how we could streamline the process with the tools that we had until I could build the business case to invest in better software. And since then, we have added technology to enhance and streamline our processes even further. And by converting us to paperless, we did this pre-pandemic where we could digitally process our invoices. Our accounting department didn't skip a beat at all when they had to start working remotely. And at that time, I was the only accounting person still coming into the office. So now, flash forward to 2024, we've got other departments that are embracing technology too, and that's streamlining us as a company even further, connecting the field to the office.
So that's really interesting that you doing that planted the seed for changing the culture within the organization around technology too, which is pretty cool. Sorry, Sarah, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say, pulling people out of their comfort zones, kind of like, rolling out the portal. It's sometimes extremely overwhelming. And, just because they've always done something one way, it doesn't mean it's the right way.
And Angela, do you have any experience around this in regards to getting people out of their comfort zone or helping onboard them with new ideas?
Yeah, I think, and part of it is spending time with the people who are going to be executing it, right? And really understanding those team dynamics and what they need. I'll use myself as an example, right? I'm still kind of like to look at a set of drawings that's printed on paper and to flip it. And that's how my brain was trained. Some of our younger employees don't. Some of our more mature employees, they're not going to turn on the computer and look at it. They just don't want to go through that process. So I think that our industry is still hybrid in the sense that there's still some old school folks that are not going to change their ways, and balancing the battle on effectiveness at the end of the day is just been very interesting. And I do look at my drawings on the computer, but there's something to be said about really digging in, and I think the growth is exciting.
And you also have had experience when you were streamlining your company in regards to technology, but it wasn't necessarily adding new technology. Can you share with the group the approach that you took when it came to technology?
Yeah, and I think that this is a company-wide approach too, is we have a system that works. It's actually executing it and making sure that everyone is trained properly on how to do it, not reinventing the new wheel, not getting new software. It's let's teach everyone the tools that we have. Let's make sure they understand them, where to go to do each one of those. I feel that I'm proud to work for a company that's perfected how to build a building on time, on budget. Let's get it done. But all of the tools are there. How do we spend time with our employees to really make sure they understand the tool and all of its capabilities? If we talk about accounting tools, that if our employees are only using a portion of what, one, we're paying for, and two, the capabilities are, then what else can I do as a leader to help them use all of the benefits and understand it? And part of that is I have to understand what all those capabilities are too. So that's been a real interesting, really not reinventing the wheel. It's just making sure we've teaching everyone how to make it roll. And if it's not broke, I don't think we need to fix it. So.
It's really insightful because in this day and age, with all the shiny new toys, making sure that you really do a tech inventory and you know what you're working with and you know how those technologies interact with each other. And you say, like, okay, if we are going to add something new to our tech stack, are we adding it because it's going to solve a problem? Is it going to connect systems? Is it going to streamline this? Or are we trying to future proof ourselves by adding said technology? And not just software, but things that we're going to get into in this next section in regards to AI, drones, barcodes, RFID, all of those fun things. So I think you make a really good point about stepping back, evaluating, making sure that things are being used, and knowing when to sunset things as well, right? So if you have tools that nobody's using, or there are better tools out there, having a plan for your technology to know when to evolve it or sunset it. So that's now that we're talking tech, let's kind of jump into that. So you guys talked about different generations, and we are in this fascinating time in the workforce where your company could technically have 4 generations or 5 generations in some cases. We still have the silent generation, which tends to be owners and more very senior level leadership within companies. Then we have our baby boomers. We have the Gen X. We have millennials. We have Gen Z. And give it about 10 years, then you're going to have the alpha generation in your workforce. So, with all of these different expectations around technology and having a younger digital native group coming in, we are seeing greater demands in regards to the technology that companies have in place. We touched on this earlier, but like integrating this technology and using it correctly into its maximum efficiency is going to help you boost your overall operational efficiencies, but it's going to give you better collaboration, Sarah, especially for companies like yours where you have people, scattered throughout the United States. And it will also help instill a culture of innovation and attract better talent to your company. So Tori, I'm going to start with you. What are you guys doing or what do you see on the horizon for construction technology trends?
Yeah, so we've all been facing this labor shortage and requirements on the job. We see our virtual design construction department being instrumental, not only drawing in the younger generation to the trades, but also helping with the labor shortage demands on the job sites. With this type of modeling, benefiting increased coordination between our trades, definitely equaling that increased efficiency in the field. There's less need for that rework, and we can meet that goal of demanding completion dates that we're all facing. Again, making sure that all our trades have adequate space for our installs is extremely important, especially in the early phases of a job life, and hoping to catch errors early on instead of going to install and find out, hey, actually the ceiling's 2 inches too low for what we had allowed, etc. And our internal process here is very innovative and has evolved into creating spool drawings that auto-populate a bill of materials. So our purchasing is much more granular and accurate. It's labeled so that our prefab department can fab these items in a climate-controlled environment. Then that's labeled and delivered to the field where we can utilize less knowledgeable apprentices and mechanics to install with the drawings and guidance available for them. So of course, less labor force required there to meet our demands is that goal that we're working towards. That's just one thing. Another technology that you can see pictured here on the left-hand side of the screen is a technology we've embraced, the Trimble robotic total station. That allows for faster and more accurate measurements than manual operation. The 3D renderings are extremely accurate utilizing that technology. And so we're really showcasing both of these technologies at our job fairs for middle schoolers and high schoolers. So this younger generation can see the types of technology available if they go into the trades, that it's not just hammer and nails all day long. And our marketing director, she is a female. She had a hands-on interactive station built so that she could interact with attendees at these career fairs and get conversations started, really bringing a human connection with our company. And this was all her idea, and that actually led to joining, to a few people joining our apprenticeship program, and we plan to keep up with that going forward.
That is very cool. How many years have you guys been implementing this technology?
At least 5.
Okay. So, so Sarah, let's kick it over to you. You guys are also doing something that is on a very hot topic around AI. So how is OTL using AI?
OTL is using it very creatively, or at least I feel like it is. We created AI technology that allows visitors to our fountains to be the conductor of our water feature. So if they move their hands up, the water moves with them. As the visitors come, the technology learns the behaviors. It can also determine if it's a child or an adult. And this technology is continuing to evolve, even as we work on it today.
I'm gonna prompt you to share with the group because you gave us an example of this, right? So like let's say nobody's at the fountain, the fountain is sad and lonely. What is the fountain gonna do to try to get somebody to play with it?
So this is the technology that is still evolving, that we're still working on, but essentially if somebody's walking by and not interacting with the fountain and they don't want to be the conductor of it, the fountain will then follow them or try to engage with them, maybe pop the jets just around to get their attention. So it's something that we are really excited about, and something that I think is going to continue to evolve and just make these outdoor spaces even more engaging.
It's absolutely fascinating. And Angela, Tying back into what Tori had said, your company is also taking an approach to attract the next generation. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we're doing a couple things, and there's a lot of technologies out there that I feel like a lot of people are using. It's just how are we using it? We use drones a lot, and all of our young assistant project managers out of college learn how to fly a drone and get their license. That's one of our requirements, which gives them an opportunity not only to do something big for the project, but to share that knowledge with other projects. And like Tori was talking about recruiting, it's interesting. We're starting to take some of the technology that we're learning from the drones, and not just it's not just taking pretty pictures anymore. It's actually, what is the science? How do we plan site logistics? How do we look at where what is the topography of the property that we're getting ready to build on? Where do we put the silt fronts? Where's the water runoff going to be? But we didn't realize that there was something else there. So it has been amazingly beneficial. And, but there's a lot that is still left to be done. I mean, we can fly a drone around the outside of a building and do quality control checks. We can look at just a multitude of different things. So how we use this technology is still evolving. I feel like every couple months I hear something new, but the next piece of that is how we're using it to recruit. And I've been actively involved for the last 15 years with the ACE mentoring program here in Houston. And this year we had a event. It's called Build It Forward. And at that event, we had a technology fair, which was new for this year, but we had all different kinds of contractors, architects, engineers. We had a company called Rugged Robots there. We had an electrician that uses AI for virtual reality to do training. We had 3D printing, you name it. And the students were incredibly interested. So like Sarah and Tori were saying, it's not, it's more than just hammer and nails anymore. And this next generation is so excited about inventing. And this, to me, the construction industry is one of the last frontiers for a lot of innovation. We're doing things the same way that they did it 1,000 years ago. So there's so much room when it comes to robotics, AI. It's limitless, and I'm excited to see what happens.
And I'm gonna put on my former CFMA hat. So in the 5 years that I was with CFMA, we would do a quarterly comp index study. And in there, we would ask the industry what their top problems were. With the exception of when COVID hit, every single comp index study talked about that labor shortage as being the number one issue that construction professionals face. So I think that you all are giving some great ideas. I mean, Sarah, even demonstrating this amazing AI technology would be a great recruitment tool for the industry. So I think one of the key takeaways here, we're talking about technology, but we're talking about showcasing the amazing tech that your companies are doing to get on the radars of individuals. You're really recruiting the Lego generation, right? Millennials down were obsessed with Legos. And so kind of capitalizing on some of those interests can be a great way to bring people into your companies. So one common theme we've had throughout this entire presentation is people, right? And I think that one of my takeaways is how important it is that you take care of your people. And research has shown that women have very strong interpersonal communication skills and a very empathetic style of leadership, which tends to create a workplace where people feel heard, safe, and valued. Women often focus on fostering teamwork and relationship building, which when conflict does arise, it inevitably helps smooth that out. They also try, and again, I'm generalizing, but they try to create a place where people genuinely want to be. So before I jump into asking our panelists about their experiences in cultivating healthy organizational cultures, I'm going to throw it back over to you, the viewers. The first question, and you'll see why we ask this in a minute, is do you all help organize your company's social events? So that could be holiday parties, picnics, team building. Just generally curious to see what your role has been in helping with those events. And while he is answering, Angela, You took an interesting approach when I asked you this question about what you do to help cultivate a healthy culture. So can you share with us one thing that you do?
Well, I think that's a loaded question, Samantha. So as we talk about culture, working for a construction company and being a woman, sometimes it's, oh, she's going to be extra soft, or she's going to be soft around the edges. And yeah, I am a little bit softer around the edges. And part of that is having, I think culture, a lot of it just starts at finding the root of what problems are. And a lot of that comes from difficult conversations. It comes from the unwillingness to address the situation right then. And I've never been one to kind of beat around the bush. So if there's an issue, let's deal with it. But also teaching people how to have a difficult conversation, because when you don't address what the situation is, that's what kind of festers and causes rumors and cultural problems just in general. And I don't think it has anything to do with the who the person is. It's just sometimes who the person is on the outside. Sometimes it's about who the person is on the inside. So it's evaluating our people and looking and figuring out each other. But part of that's getting to know each other and getting to spend more time together, cultivating a culture in a company like at Bartlett Cock. We've got people all over the state. I have people everywhere. So they don't get to see each other on a day-to-day basis. So you have to do other things. And I know we talk about planning events and doing those kind of things, but really honing in on what that looks like. And I also, I try to, and this back to being a girl and being cheesy, I guess, but I had worked with an owner. He's the president down at Moody Gardens, and he was very passionate about positive people power. And he introduced me to this interesting just concept of positivity. And I'd always kind of lived my life in a positive way, but I started every meeting with a positive moment. And I didn't want to hear about the job. I didn't want to, oh yeah, we got paid today. That wasn't, to me, that wasn't positive. It was something that meant something big to you in your life. And I was project manager on a project and would go to the foreman's meeting, and I'd start this meeting with a positive moment, and all the guys would kind of stare at me like, this woman's crazy. So I did it for about 6 weeks, didn't get any response. And on the 7th week, I just started with the regular safety moment. We moved on in, and the plumber looked at me and he was like, "What are you doing? What happened to the positive moment?" And I was like, "I thought you guys didn't like it." He goes, "I love it." He goes, "I just got a motorcycle." And another guy in the room ended up having a motorcycle and, moving forward. I think they went to Sturgis together maybe 3 or 4 years ago. That's kind of cool. I think it's building relationships, but sometimes you got to push a little bit to get culture. Being positive is not always a bad thing. Having connections with people really matters. And if I can bring that to the table, I'm proud to.
That's amazing. And just building off of that to give the audience another idea of how to do that. Um, Starting at CFMA, I had implemented for team meetings, having everybody take turns running the meeting. And part of running the meeting was coming up with the question of the day. And this is something a college professor introduced. He did it at the start of every class. And we all got to know each other because you got to see everybody's different perspectives. So, for instance, I led the team meeting on Monday, and the question was, if you could get the answer to any unsolved mystery out there, what would it be? And it was just fascinating to hear everybody's brains and people being like, "Oh, that's the one I would have selected too." And then it just gives you another thing to bond with people over and help get to know them. So I think that that's amazing with what you're doing, and I would highly encourage the people listening today to find ways to incorporate those positive moments or questions of the days into their meetings, because it's just a great way, great fun way for everybody to get to know each other. Um, so moving on, gonna turn it over to you, Tori. Because when we were talking about this, you had shared kind of the role that you take based on how you were socialized. So can you kind of expand upon that?
Yeah, that, kind of generally speaking here, again, this is not maybe everyone, but generally speaking, I found that from childhood, women are we're raised, we are socialized to be hospitable, right, from a very young age, and to make others feel comfortable, safe, and secure. And this creates an environment and a work environment, a good culture that men definitely want to enjoy the results from. And so, I have found that, again, generally, women can focus on that building relationship side, whereas men typically want to focus on just getting things done.
And so with that said, what do you find yourself doing within the company to achieve this?
Sure. So a few things that I've, spearheaded or kind of taken the lead on, and some of these I've passed on to other people to handle now. But one really that helped foster a culture of caring and that we were putting our people first is that when anyone had experienced, a close death in their family, or so that they were in the hospital, I took charge of ordering flowers or sending a fruit basket. I had previously worked at a florist, so I wasn't intimidated, knowing what to order or the right price range. So that was one thing. Um, Seeing the need to not interrupt the field workers. So when we need to have certain types of meetings and communicate, whether it's their benefits or something company wide that we needed to get them up to speed on, I've decided to start organizing job site meetings. So, obviously it takes more time on my part, but again, putting them first, I'm going out to the job sites, having the meeting there instead of asking them to leave their job site and come and join us at the office. This week for Women in Construction Week, I ordered all the ladies here a nice Stanley, got our logo put on it, and put proactively empowering women in construction. Got this T-shirt says "Women in Construction" for all of us, and just left that for them so they'd have it when they came in the office Monday morning. And then something else was, the gentlemen around here, sometimes wear nice pants and a button down, but regularly they were wearing really nice jeans to the office. And so just taking that lead there, rolling out a dress code that meant, hey, females, we can also wear appropriate jeans to work. But if we want to wear high heels and a pink dress, that's fine too. And then just really quickly, I just also wanted to say, I am certainly appreciative of all of the men who are allies for us and support and lift women up. This is certainly not a competition. We certainly wanted to stress that today, and that I'm really happy to work for a gentleman that is, as president, he's always encouraged advancement, regardless of if someone was male or female. And I really respect and appreciate this culture that he's been able to build here.
That is a very good point. And so looking at everything that you have done and in obviously contributing, your president really sets the tone. So from an organizational culture perspective, everybody can do their own part, but at the end of the day, it is that top tier leadership that has to set the tone to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So it is really encouraging to hear that you have a president who is setting that tone for the company. So Sarah, talking about the special events and everything, this is near and dear to your heart. You gave us quite a few photos for our collage here. So can you kind of build upon what Tori said and share with you the role you're playing to bring people together?
Absolutely. So throughout the year, our company does several team building events. One that has become very popular is our golf tournament. We close our office, we invite all of our employees out for the day and have everybody golfing. And in the beginning, I was met with a lot of resistance because they didn't golf, they had too much work to do, they couldn't leave the office for the day. And I think, again, I know I've said this a few times in this webinar, is like bringing people out of their comfort zone. I've really found that when employees have positive experiences with their colleagues, they work better together and more effectively. And now this event has come to a point where the newer employees are resistant, but all the other employees are encouraging them and saying, you've got to go. This is a great day. This is such a fun time just to get out of the office and enjoy each other, and really take an opportunity to support their success and reward them for, being such great employees.
And we'll give our listeners a little tip. So, from an organizational culture perspective, too, when you're holding events for your company, especially during work hours where they're getting paid to go have fun, if they don't want to attend, that is a very key indicator you need to pay attention to from the overall culture and health of your company. So, when they don't want to go hang out with each other and bond and interact, I would encourage you all to look a little bit deeper into that and figure out why, because ultimately it is an indicator of the culture where they would rather just come to work, get their job done, and not interact. And as Sarah had mentioned previously in the presentation, it does cultivate loyalty, stronger bonds, better teamwork. So there are a lot of intangible values to having strong, healthy organizational cultures. Um, Angela, when we were chatting in the prep for this, you had a really good example of a skills assessment, and I believe it's this picture over here on the to the left of your photo of your team
The
doing their skills
very
assessment.
the very serious looking people in the picture.
Yes.
Yeah. We have a lot of party pictures in here too. So Sarah, we might need to have a cook off at some point. But one of the things that we've invested in is, we've been using the Clifton strengths in our office just to kind of overall I've been with the company for going on 3 years now. So that's for me to kind of get to know with what I have, who do I have, what kind of people do I have overall as far as diversity in thought and skill set. And it ties back to a lot of what Tori was talking about with succession planning. Who's going to sit in my seat one day? And part of that is, and to sit in the seat, you need to be a leader. You need to have camaraderie. You need to have this team of people that trust you and know you. So how do I foster that amongst the employees? And I have a very young workforce. Most of my employees are under the age of 35. That is young. And for them to see an investment in them is super important, but also to get to know each other is just as important.
So, Sarah, Tori, do either of you do anything similar in regards to assessments?
We haven't. It's on the plan.
Okay. So good, a
We-
takeaway for both of you.
We implemented the Clifton strengths as well in the office, and we hope to roll it out to the field eventually. But that's been, I know, extremely eye-opening for me and quite a few others here in the office as well.
All right. So we have our final poll question. So we're going to bring it full circle with the question. So we asked you earlier if you helped participate or organize in the events. And now we're curious to know, do you actually like attending your company's social events? So curious to know where you all fall in regards to attending those events. And as you all are answering those, we're going to wrap up here. So I would just first and foremost like to thank you ladies for an amazing conversation, and thank you for joining us today. But before we let you all go, I am curious to know what your takeaways are for this group and advice. So Sarah, I am going to go ahead and start with you on this one.
Absolutely. I think being an ally, creating an inclusive, positive, and supportive work environment, speaking up for individuals that are not comfortable speaking up for themselves.
Mhm.
As a female leader in this industry, I believe that understanding our core purpose and motivation is extremely crucial in achieving success and inspiring others. Through allyship, we can have a significant impact by promoting diversity and inclusion. And to kind of circle back to what Tori said, it really is important. And I feel very supported where I am at by the males in my office, and encouraging that behavior is so important.
Right. And then Tori, let's throw it over to you.
Yeah, so for me, it's, I recently heard this comparison that, there was this huge push to encourage women to enter the STEM fields, and they were able to see an increase. It took about 20 years. We're seeing one way to meet labor shortages in the construction industry is by encouraging women to enter the field, embracing our differences here. The latest stats are that women only make up 10% in construction, including in the office and the boardroom. So this initiative is not about, women or men being better, but just to inspire more women to join a field that builds our world. It's full of smart people with grit, And it's a pace of getting things done and getting things done together. So that's just one thing that I wanted to be a key takeaway. And then also, no matter what, we want to be mindful of the words that we choose. I'll never forget this one comment that was made to me, that I must be a man because I'm always here and I rarely get sick. And in the moment, I was like, I know this is meant as a compliment, but is it? So let's just be very mindful of what we say to each other.
And Angela?
I think to wrap up, I guess it's staying true to yourself and following what you know in your core is right. And sometimes that's hard to do. Sometimes you think it's hard, but then when you actually try it, it's like, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? I can try a positive moment and it doesn't work. That's the worst that can happen. And like Sarah and Tori said, I'm very fortunate to work for a company that trusts me with a division of their company and the culture of their company and the success day in and day out. And I never feel like a woman sitting at the table. I'm part of the team. And as the industry grows, I feel like, and I'm really proud to be on this panel with these ladies that we talked about it yesterday, about the fact that the industry is changing and that there's seats open and there's opportunities as we move forward. And part of that is we don't have to change in order to fill those seats. We can be ourselves. We can wear the pink dress and the heels, and we can wear our boots, and we can be in the field and direct work all day long. So I'm really excited for the future of our industry and where we're headed as a group of not just women and men, but together.
Beautifully said. And I see that we have quite a few women on this call. And when it comes to allyship too, another thing that happened in our conversations and prep for this was women supporting other women and building each other up. You guys all had some very, very horrific stories, in my opinion, about early experiences in the construction industry and how women weren't exactly supportive and helpful, and they looked at you as competition. So just remind everybody on here, if you have the opportunity to support a woman and build her up and mentor, absolutely take advantage of that, because to Tori's point, we need more women in construction, and that is a really great way to pull people in. And again, it is going to diversify the school of thought. And I think at the end of the day, that's our biggest message with this, is by having more females on the team, it's just going to diversify the thought process, and at the end of the day, make your companies more successful. So we couldn't leave you all without a few recommendations. So the group got together. We are sharing some of our favorite books and podcasts and TED Talks. In the email that you're going to get with this recording, we will send you links to all of these. But there's just some really great things out there that we thought, if anybody's looking for some additional education, you could take advantage of these. So before I go, if anybody has any questions for our panel, feel free to use that Q&A feature. And as we wait to the panel, any final words?
Just want to say thank you, Sam, for inviting us all to come on here and address a timely and very necessary topic. And it was a pleasure to get to meet Sarah and Angela. And as I believe it was Angela made the comment, we're coast to coast across the country representative on this call, which was pretty awesome. So just thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. It was my pleasure. And to everybody listening, happy Women in Construction Week, happy Women's History Month. And we look forward to seeing the great things that you all are going to accomplish at your companies. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.